Brother BNX and Young Kind and Don.
I said I'm finna go live.
Brother BNX and Young Kind and Don.
I'm finna go live, put my 9 to 5. Finna go home, boys, finna be a vibe. Finna be a vibe. They say take a leave, so I went and took a dive. I'm finna go live, put my 9 to 5. Finna go home, boys, finna be a vibe. Finna be a vibe. They say take a leap, so I went and took a dive. To do for self on my own, bossed up, got a car in. They say take a leave, so I went and took a dive. I'm finna go live, put my 9 to 5. Finna go home, boys, finna be a vibe. Finna be a vibe. They say take a leap, so I went and took a dive. To do for self on my own, bossed up, got a car in a home, and I did it on my phone. I'ma show you how to get it strong, get the bag, and it don't take long, and you don't need a loan. You don't need a boss or a master. Get the right team and it's faster. This a new chapter. Gotta learn the business in the game. Every day, new money, new change. Adapt to the lane. It ain't about the bread, but the brain. Work hard, play hard, new fame. No more chains. No more chains. I'm finna go live, put my 9 to 5. Finna go home, boys, finna be a vibe. Finna be a vibe. They say take a leave, so I went and took a dive. I'm finna go live, put my 9 to 5. Finna go home, boys, finna be a vibe. Finna be a vibe. They say take a leave, so I went and took a dive.
I'm finna go live on IG. Sorry, but a 9 to 5 is not me. I'ma do myself until I die. You already know the vibe when I speak. Do not sleep, cause the 20 months made 91K. What you doing 40 hours, I can do in one day. With digital real estate that I own, all I need is Wi-Fi and my phone. Get into it, pursue it, I show you how to do it. You got a gift inside you, but you never knew it. Let me put you in the game, I've been a coach. Everything I do is dope, man, I'm finna go
live, put my 9 to 5. Finna go home, boys, finna be a vibe.
All right, family. You can hear me now, right? But I can't hear you, so you're muted. So there should be something on your screen that's like a button, maybe where you can unmute, but I can't hear you. All right, you all in the audience, just give us a minute. We just having some technical difficulties right now. I see you though. Let me see if I add you, if I can. Okay,
there
I see
go.
you on the screen. Oh, say something now.
Can you hear me now?
Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
I think that's the fix. Hold on.
Can you hear me now?
What about now?
I hear you.
Cool. There we go. Yeah, that's it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You hear me?
Yep.
I'm not live yet, right? I'm gonna move to the better scenery.
Well, you are live, but I'll make it to where they can just see me.
Okay. All
right, y'all.
Yeah,
So welcome to the Brother Ben X podcast, y'all. He's getting downstairs so that we can get this thing rocking and rolling. But today we're going to talk about an important topic, man. I think that's going to be very beneficial for you all. And what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about how you could buy businesses without your own money. Many of us talk about not having enough money. Many of us, we hear about, buying businesses. Many of us have probably heard about acquisition of companies, private equity, whatever the case may be. But we ain't got the money to do it. We may have the credit. We may have whatever the case may be, but we don't have the money to do it. So we have a brother who I found on Instagram who is teaching people how to literally buy businesses without any money down. I'm pretty sure y'all read the books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all these different things where you hear about using other people's money and things of that nature. Well, tonight, I want to be able to get some of your questions answered. And then I have some questions as well, so you can learn more about this process. And the brother name is Business Builder Beez. And we're going to get into why he's called that here in a minute. Let's bring him on the stage. Can y'all see him? Make sure y'all can see him. All right. So I think he's on the screen right now. So if you can, just give us an introduction, man, and let us know, how did you get the name Business Builder Beez?
Hey, my brother Ben X, I appreciate you inviting me on here first and foremost. Thank you so much for the work that you do, for the message that you spread. I'm all about uplifting our community overall, and that's what led me to start teaching what I do. To be honest, I'm not a fan of social media. I kind of stay off of it. I just want to go do business. I'm making money, investments. But once I figured out the thing that I've been striving for so long was how to break into being an entrepreneur, how to break into creating wealth, right? Coming up, a lot of people I would see, they'd say, oh, I put $10,000 on a house. And at the time I was like, how'd you get $10,000 at the same time? Like, I can't fathom how you did it. So, I didn't have access to that information. Now that I have, it's led me to want to share this with the community. Now, the reason why they call me Business Builder Beez, well, first of all, my name is Bjorn Beez Hendricks. It's a Swedish name, but I'm not Swedish. I'm actually Jamaican. But most of my friends couldn't pronounce Bjorn all the time, so it was like, okay, just call me B. Then it got to Beez, and once I started building businesses, I took this as separate from the saying when people say serial entrepreneur. I was a serial entrepreneur. That meant you trying. Sometimes you're gonna fail. That's part of the game. You keep going. But then I said, no, I need a methodology. I need an actual repeatable strategy that can help me to build successful businesses. So I put that into place from my knowledge, my experience in corporate America. I was working at Microsoft. I worked at Accenture. And from that knowledge, I then put into place, created something called a business builders methodology, which helped me to launch multiple successful businesses. I started scaling them once I started acquiring other businesses and rolling them up into it. And I didn't talk about that a lot in the past because most people felt intimidated and they'd say, oh, Beez, but you're already making money, so you could buy a business. But then I started saying, but nah, I didn't buy all of them with cash or nothing. I didn't even, when people think of OPM, other people's money, they think of credit. Oh, I got to have good credit. In many cases, I didn't even use credit. So not my cash and not credit. What's the excuse then of why you can't buy a business? And when I'm buying a business, I'm buying one that is already cash flowing. I'm buying cash flow. I'm not even buying a business. I'm buying cash flow. That's a different change in mindset that you have to make. You talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's one of the required reading in my community, where I teach all of this information. And I'll tell you about the other ones in a second. But in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about the cash flow quadrant and moving from being an employee to self-employed, and you're still working in the business, trading time for money, but then going over to be a business owner and working on the business. Now you're trading results for money. You're steering the ship steering the direction of the ship instead of working in it. That's cool. I was there too. But then I was always scared to go to the final quadrant. That's the investor quadrant.
So let's rewind back because I want to bring them up to that. So let's go all the way back so people can relate. Let's talk about when did you first, what was your childhood like? What did you want to be growing up? Did you see yourself as a young age buying businesses, running business? How did you get into entrepreneurship? Like what was your dream when you was younger?
My dream was that so there's a joke that people would say about Jamaicans. They would say, oh, Jamaicans got a lot of jobs, right? And I used to know family and friends that had 2 or 3 jobs at the same time, but they were still broke. They were still living check to check. So I started questioning that from a young age, saying that can't be the secret. That can't be the sauce that I need to know, right? So I started looking into, okay, well, what else can I do that I can make money? I can start building wealth. I hear people talking about trust funds and stuff. Like, what's that? How did I get into that?
So real quick. Now you said you got, family members. So that is a thing where Jamaicans got a lot of jobs, is what you're saying?
Yeah, it is. It is a thing.
So what is the mindset of that? Is it just, are they doing that because that's a part of the culture, or they literally have a lot of jobs because they just trying to make ends meet? And that's the only way they know to make ends meet.
It's also part of the culture, because the culture and the black culture in general says if you work hard, then you can make money. But the wealthy don't have that mindset. They're more like work smart, then you can make money. They're not working with their hands, they're working with their minds, right? So I had to make that shift because I was questioning a lot. And I was saying, hey, there has to be other things out there. And to be honest, it's unfortunate, but growing up, my father wasn't around as much for me. And my heroes were Well, I was seeing these entrepreneurs doing things. I didn't even know that term at the time, entrepreneur. But someone like Warren Buffett, he was an investor. And I read a book of his and a book of Bill Gates, The Road Ahead, I think it was in the 90s or something. And it just made me say, all right, I want to learn more about owning a business and using that to help me create wealth. And, that just led me into wanting to be an entrepreneur in general.
So you didn't have a father growing up. So was it also you seeing people in your family having so many jobs, working hard, that kind of steer you into entrepreneurship? Did you dabble into it yourself? Like, how did you first start generating money for yourself? Was it through trying to get jobs too?
It was through getting jobs. It was also, so I remember my first job. Actually, my first job was at like an icy shop, frozen icy for like 2 weeks. But my first real job after that was at a sneaker store for a few years during high school. And while I was at the sneaker store, I used to also buy certain things. I used to make partnerships with some of the local stores in the area, and I would buy certain things that I would then resell to, basically buy it in bulk at a cheaper price that I would then resell at a markup later on to people in school. So I was thinking to myself at the time, I'm like, damn, but I got this, not a 9 to 5, but I got this part-time job at the sneaker store, and it was all right. But then I had this demand of people wanting more stuff than I could even supply over here. And I was like, well, this was fun because I was networking with the store owners. They didn't even like most of us. Like all the black kids would rush the stores and, some people trying to do a couple of, take a couple little candy here and there or whatever. But I made a good relationship with them. And they were like, oh, this is, they're probably saying, oh, he's very articulate or something like that or whatever. But I made an impression that they were willing to sell in bulk to me. So that really made me realize that, yeah, I like this better than just going and reporting and, reporting to work and working for someone and checking in. And I'm not building my dream. So, that was really the starting point for me.
So it sounds like you had a job part-time, and then as you got, while the time that you did have outside of the part job, you found a wholesale situation, side job, side business of your own. And as that was able to sustain you and you started to get a bigger demand, this started pulling on your time more. You're like, well, I can make more money here. So did you eventually leave the job, or did you stay there for a while and you managed to do both? How did you make that transition out of the job?
So I that was more the hustler mentality that I had. It was still high school, right? So I did leave the job eventually, and then I got into more hustles, more things and a good friend of mine, his brand is called Hustle the Entrepreneur, and I like that because it's like that's a change that you have to make. You have to make that mind. It's okay to be a hustler in the beginning because it kind of teaches you some ins and outs of business, the basics of it. And then you got to make that change to be more official as an entrepreneur, as an actual businessman, or as an investor. And I last minute in senior year of high school, I decided to apply for a college, and I got in. It was really all last minute for me. But then through college, I was paying for myself the entire time. So I was working the entire time while still hustling. And, I followed the typical path, too, because I did go through corporate America first because I thought that's what I had to do, until I found a better way.
Now, when you was at this job and you eventually left the job, what was the mindset that you had to have? Well, let's start here. You was at corporate America because you thought that was the way we go. We get taught the typical go to school so you can get good grades, so you can work, get your corporate job, whatever, get your pension, whatever, all that type of stuff, right? What was it that made you say, you know what, this is not it? Because you thought that this was it, but what happened to make you realize, no, this ain't the way for me?
And I'm gonna tell you, I had a good corporate career. My last job, I was working at Microsoft, and it was a great job. I ain't gonna lie. So I'm never shaming anybody that has a job. What I say is that I learned, if you're gonna have your 9 to 5 still, then make sure you also have other streams of revenue, other investments that's bringing in money for you. Because you may think that 9 to 5 is security, but they could pull that rug from you at any moment, and then you'd be lost, right? So for me, it was they had to send me on to a client site one week, and the client wasn't even gonna be there. And the client said, you don't even have to come. No one's gonna be in the office and such. And I had my son had a basketball game, And I asked them, I was like, listen, the client's not going to be there. They said I don't need to report in. Can I stay? I also have a family thing that I want to do. And they were like, no. And I was in shock. I was like, really? I got to beg you for time to spend with my son? And that's when I felt, that was like the final straw. I think I quit within the next 2 to 3 weeks after that and never looked back. And, I quit in an unconventional way because one thing I did do is, and I'm not telling people to do this, but I was like, listen, everybody was, don't touch your 401k, leave it. I didn't have that much in there anyway. So I dipped into it to use it to fund my entrepreneurial life. And, now I'm a 7 and 8 figure earner in different businesses. So I think I made the right choice, at least for me.
Wow. Beautiful, man. Took the lead. So let me ask you this. So many people struggle with the mindset of the 9 to 5 coming into an entrepreneur. So with the 9 to 5, you know how it is. You come to work, whether you give your all or not, you're going to get that paycheck every 2 weeks or you're going to get your paycheck every week. So there's a sense of security there when you have a job. But in entrepreneurship, it's eat what you kill. So if I don't get no sales this month, this week, my light bills may not be paid. My electric bill may not be paid. So what was the mindset shift, or how did you what mindset did you have to develop to go from working the job to being full-time now entrepreneur?
So I love that, actually. The fact that it was eat or be killed. You know what I'm saying? It was like, listen, I need to, if I don't kill it, I ain't gonna eat, right? I loved having my back against the wall. And once I saw it was possible, because that's that fear. It's that one little fear, like, yeah, but how am I gonna pay my bills, right? And then once I saw it was possible, and having my back against the wall just kept me motivated all the time. It's like if you ease up on going to the gym just a little bit, you're gonna see the difference. But if you keep that time under tension of consistently working out, you're gonna see a difference in the other direction, right? So it was the same thing in business for me. But here's the thing: you said, if you don't kill, you don't eat. I saw a problem with that too. That is the mindset of an entrepreneur. That's why I started saying that I always hesitated to go to that final quadrant in the cash flow quadrant in Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? That final quadrant is the investor quadrant. And that's a different mindset, right? I said, if you're an employee or self-employed, you're working in the business. If you're a CEO, a business owner, you're working on the business, steering the direction. But when you're an investor, you're working above the business. It's not if I don't eat, I don't kill. I mean, if I don't kill, I don't eat. It's I could go sit on the beach and I'm still eating. Money's still coming in. It's still flowing. You got to have your money working for you, right? I was taught credit is bad. I was taught debt is bad in the Caribbean community. But that's not true. There's good debt and bad debt. We just need to know the difference, right? So that was my shift, is going from self-employed, working in the business, to being a business owner. And even as a business owner, because I had other employees working for me, I still was able to go away on a vacation and money was still coming in. But the ultimate is when I got to the investor level, and that, people don't need to fear that and think that it takes money to be an investor. It takes creativity, because it's about your mind instead of your hands.
So we definitely going to get there. So make sure y'all don't go nowhere, because we're going to get there to the end about how you can become an investor and make that money work for you. Now, we done transition from your jobs. Now we went to self-employed. What did you have to put in place? How did you get from that step of being self-employed to being an entrepreneur? Because I think those are two different things. Many of us may say I'm an entrepreneur, but many of us are just self-employed. And I make a joke about this all the time, how I used to write emails and somebody would email me and I would say, we will get back to you in 24 hours. And ain't nobody gonna get back to you but me. It's only just me. So I didn't really have a team per se. So what did you have to learn, and what are some things that you saw as you went from doing everything by yourself as a, self-employed person to an actual entrepreneur, business owner?
I'm gonna start off by saying this. Another mindset shift is that 25% of watermelon is better than 100% of a grape. A lot of times we go in and we start a business and we're like, hey, and nobody can't do it as good as me. And I need to do it myself or else it's not gonna get done. Yeah, but guess what? I'd rather have 10 people doing it 75% as good as me. And now that's equaling to more revenue than if it was just me alone doing it 100% as good as me, right? So we got to make those mindset shifts in terms of, hey, don't think it's all on you. You got to put process, systems, and people in place to make that shift from self-employed to a business owner, right? You have to know what the steps are that you do in your business in order to make money. That's your process. So document it, right? Then you have to say, okay, how can I improve the process? How can I automate it? How can I remove some waste from it? Then you got to say, I got to hire in it. And some people are going to say, yeah, but when you're first starting off, I can't hire. I can't afford no people. Well, hey, what about you use virtual assistants from the Philippines or something, right? Virtual assistants from the Philippines, you may spend $500 for the month for a full-time worker, right? So there are ways to get it done. You just have to seek that information and then execute on it. Am I frozen? Can you see me still?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, good.
And so for you, what was the most difficult thing for you personally that you had to master in that step of the quadrant when it comes to owning a business?
You know what it was? Did you hear about how Donald Trump buried his ex-wife on his golf course? Did you hear about that? So I just told my students this. I just told my community about this, right? For example, before I explain more about that, remember when it came out that Donald Trump only paid $700 in taxes over the last however many years? Most people in our community were like, man, that's terrible. The rich always getting away, blah, blah. I was like, well, how do you do it? What tax code out there is it that he was able to utilize that we can all utilize, but just don't know about, so I could do it too? Same thing with what he did with the burying his wife on his golf course. Apparently, there's a law that says, okay, if you bury just one body on a human remain on a property, now you're classified as a cemetery. And because you're classified as a cemetery, you don't have to pay any estate taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, absolutely nothing. And you're protected from seizure. You're protected. There's a reason why a lot of churches have, a cemetery attached to them or something, because that gives them extra protection. So I'm telling you all of this to say the hardest part for me was I wanted to know all of those rules. I wanted to know all of those secrets that it's not really a secret, but it's a secret to us for some reason, right? And that was the biggest thing for me, because it ain't that difficult to run your business, but to make it thrive and grow and be protected, because 80% of businesses are gone in 5 years. So I wanted to figure out how to get past that. And I was looking at, what other big CEOs were doing and trying to learn from them and emulate it.
Wow, that was some $1 million worth of game right there, y'all. I hope y'all picked it up, man. So what was the business that you had when you started to actually run your business? What was the first business that you had and ran on your own?
So I started out in e-commerce, and I was doing Amazon FBA. So I was private labeling products from China and then shipping it right into Amazon and then selling. And that's how I made my first 7 figures. And I was like, wow, this is insane. I can't believe it. Then because I was networking in a community of other people who were doing the same thing, I started asking them what's their biggest pain points. And I knew what mine were. It was the supply chain. So I started a supply chain management company that serviced my e-commerce company, and now serviced all of these other people who were also doing Amazon FBA and private labeling. And then from there, it just started to grow. That's also when I sold 2 brands that I created. How was I able to sell those 2 brands? Because I put process in place so it was repeatable. I put systems in place so it was automated and a quick, easy turnover to the new seller, to the new buyers. And then I put people in place that were executing it for them. Many of them were the VAs. And that made them get a turnkey business that they could purchase from me, and it's already generating revenue. So once I did that and sold it, I was like, wait, hold up. If I could sell businesses like this too, I could buy them the same way. And then that changed my life. Matter of fact, you talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I have 4 books in my community that are required reading. Rich Dad Poor Dad is one. Can you see this one? This is Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun by Reginald Lewis. Most people don't even know who he is. First black billionaire in modern times, and nobody talks about him. But he became that way through business acquisitions using leverage buyouts, which is what I do. And I'll explain more about that in a little bit. But that was just like, hey, I got to go through this too. I need to, I saw that it was possible, and much less it was possible from a man of color as well. So I knew I could do it too. And that's been my journey ever since.
So I hope y'all heard what he said when he said that he found a need business-wise that he had. And as he saw a need that he had that other people had as well, that's how the business came about. So some of us, what we're doing is we're striving to build businesses and come up with ideas just out of our mind, or we don't know what type of businesses to create, when all you got to do really is look into the marketplace and see what the need is. And I always say we can't create a new reality with an old mindset. We know people are going into the metaverse. We know people are online. We know there's a lot of people that don't like it, but a lot of people are operating online. So what do people need online? There's people who don't want to manage their social media. Can you manage their social media? There's people who don't want to do their emails. Can you do the emails? There's somebody who doesn't want it. So all these things, think about what people are doing and what people are using today, and go find a need and then put it in the marketplace. That's what every company has done. Business is the activity of life. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us. So when you guys are thinking about business, just think about what is a need that somebody have. And, it's just funny you say that, because I always talk about, just find the need in the marketplace. And that's literally how you created that business.
Definitely. I saw somebody ask, what are the 4 books? If you don't mind, I'll mention those as well. So Rich Dad Poor Dad is one of them because of that cash flow quadrant, right? But most people have heard of that one and most people have read it. This is the other one that I just mentioned, which is Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? The story of Reginald Lewis. The other one is Barbarians at the Gate. This is the story of the largest LBO, leverage buyout, which I'm going to explain to y'all what that is in a moment. The story of the largest LBO in history. It was in the 1980s. And this is the RJR Nabisco buyout. Right. So I love this story because it kind of opened my eyes that, this is what these people doing out here. And, why can't I do it too? Then the final book is Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, because this, we always talk about how can we uplift the Black community. And I actually believe in the strategies that he's putting in here is an actual tangible plan to improve wealth in the Black community and, uplift us to be able to create generational wealth. So those are my 4 books that I always recommend because they shaped a lot of what I've created and what I've been doing for myself as an investor.
Ooh, sounds good. So we're about to transition, y'all, to a very important topic. Before we do that, we're going to go to a commercial real quick about digital real estate. Then we'll come back. Y'all finna learn some real good games. So y'all get your notepads out and get ready to listen. Boom! Scared you, didn't I? Yeah, I know I scared you. Listen. I got a question for you. My question is, are you involved with digital real estate? Now, don't even answer because you already are. Here's the quote. If you on social media, you already involved with digital real estate. You just a consumer, and I want to make you the producer. How many times do you keep seeing these teenagers make money online, businesses making money online, coaches making the money online, and you wondering why I'm not making money online, but I'm always online? Well, let me help you. I'm doing a webinar coming up, and I'm going to show you guys how I made over 7 figures online strictly with digital real estate. Anywhere you got Wi-Fi, a computer, or your phone, you can be generating income for yourself. And another thing, I know some of y'all thinking, but I'm not popular. I'm not a social media influencer. I'm going to show you how to make money if you have a business and you got a following. Even if you're not popular on social media, you can still make thousands of dollars. And I'm going to show you how. See you at the webinar. Click the link below. All right, family. So you guys can go there, www.drecourses.com. Every Sunday I do a webinar just to show you guys my secrets of how you can grow online, whether if you have a business or you don't have a business. That's www.drecourses.com. So what we want to hear is about now, how did you transition from business owner to now that last quadrant to actually being an investor. But I first want to start before we get into like the tangibles, but the mindset, because I feel like as an entrepreneur, most of us got that, I'm willing to put some money up and bet on my business because I know what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to stay up 3 o'clock in the morning if I got to get it done. I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z if I got to get it done. But when you start to invest, you putting your money in, and really it's on somebody else to do something. It's on this business to produce, and it's not necessarily you. So that could be like a hesitant to some people because they like, well, I know what I can do, but I don't know what he gonna do. So how did you go from that business owner to now mindset of an investor?
That's a very important question, because that's exactly how it was. It was, oh man, I got to turn things over to someone else. Yeah, but if you were working in corporate America, that's exactly what was being done, right? It was always turned over to managers and supervisors and COOs and all of that. So I started looking at it on a larger picture. If I have multiple companies running without me, I hired operators in it, CEOs, COOs, managers, supervisors, everything. And maybe I even give them a little equity that they can earn over time so that they are more motivated to have the business succeed. I'm fine with getting a little bit of equity there, a little bit of equity there, because I have a portfolio of AUM, assets under management, right? So that mindset shift was important when it comes to, being an investor. It was, okay, I got to make sure I'm comfortable putting the right people in place in order for them to run the company, so that I'm not trading my time in any capacity at all. I'm doing is checking earnings reports and I'm getting paid. All right. So that was my biggest shift overall. The next thing was really about how I was structuring the deals and realizing that, remember I said that you went from in the business to on the business, and then as an investor, you're above the business. Well, I started shifting my thoughts and saying, okay, I'm not focused on the end product of the business. Instead, I'm focused on the business itself as a product. How do I buy this product? What do I need to do to improve this product so it's worth more? And then how do I sell this product? That's another thing that in our community that we forget about. We don't just get into business just for the sake of getting into business. Have a plan, be intentional about it. So what is your intention? What is your exit plan in your business? Most people, you ask them that and they say, I don't know, I'm just gonna keep it and give it to my kids. Well, let me tell you something. The largest wealth transfer in history is about to take place during this decade in multiple industries, in particular in business acquisitions, because there's 12.5 million baby boomers who are retiring this decade that have businesses. And most of them thought they could give it to their kids, and the kids don't want it. So what's going to happen? A lot of rich people going to swoop in and try to claim it, because now they get extra cash flow that they add in. So even if you don't have money, now what I'm about to tell y'all with this leverage buyout, you could take part of a wealth transfer that's going to go down in history. And you're going to come in and get assets that are going to be producing cash flow for you, basically passively. You could choose to work in it if you want to, or you could choose to hire an operator. And I think that's an important mindset shift to make.
That's deep. So so let's define leverage buyout. What does that actually mean?
Leverage buyout is when you leverage debt in the company that you're about to acquire to pay for the acquisition. So you're not paying. It doesn't mean the seller doesn't get paid. It just means that money doesn't come out of your pocket. All right. So I'm gonna give y'all a quick breakdown, a quick scenario, and then we're gonna dig deeper. I'm sure it's gonna lead to questions. Let's say I got a $1 million business, right? Now, before I do that, actually, the reason why I told y'all about this book, Barbarians at the Gate, and why it was the story of the largest LBO, I wanted to let you know this ain't nothing that I made up. This ain't nothing that's new. This ain't nothing that's a quick play that's gonna go away soon. This is something that it's a sustainable strategy, right? If I like to say plays get played out, right? But sustainable strategies aren't going nowhere. You ever heard the joke that once black people start finding out about things, they change the rules, right? Well, guess what? If the government was to say, oh, we can't let these leverage buyouts happen anymore because B's been telling too many black people about it. Well, guess who gonna fight that battle for us? Warren Buffett gonna fight it. Elon Musk, who just tried to buy Twitter using this exact strategy, he gonna fight it. All these wealthy people are gonna fight it because they're no, you can't stop leverage buyouts. This is what we do. So we're just gonna get that benefit of having those powerhouses doing it for us. So a leverage buyout is when you say, like, let's say I have a $1 million business and I'm gonna go acquire it. One of the first things that I'm gonna do is ask for something called seller financing. Right? I'm gonna tell you about 4 to 5 things that I'm gonna use to stack the deal so that that whole 1 million is not coming out my pocket. But in my community, I have like a couple hundred of things, and it just depends on the deal for you to decide which ones you want to stack together. The first one I stack in almost every single deal is called seller financing. Sometimes it's called owner carry. That means the seller is willing to carry a note. They're willing to say, hey, you could pay me X amount over 5 to 10 years. So it's a $1 million business. Let's say I get 60% seller financing. I've gotten as high as 80. I've seen people get as low as 10 or none, of course, right? But let's say I got 60%, which is extremely common again. That means $600,000 I don't have to pay right now. I could pay that over 5 to 10 years, right? But who's gonna pay that money each month? It's a monthly payment. Who's gonna pay it? And I'm asking you that question.
Well, I think the typical answer, if I was just gonna come off the head, I would say me. I'm pretty sure somebody else, but I'm gonna say me.
It's the business you acquired because you own the business. And guess what? You got to do all the due diligence up front. You saw their financials. Remember I said 80% of businesses are gone in 5 years. They just shut down. They didn't make it. Also, less than 5% of businesses in the US even make it to 7 figures. So when I acquire a business, I acquire one that's already older than 5 years and already made it to 7 figures. And if I do a stock purchase, then I'm also getting their history. So their tax returns, their credit, business credit, and all of that. So when I acquire that business and I get 60% seller financing, and then I got to make the monthly payments, the business is actually going to make that monthly payment to the seller. I know you may say, okay, but Beez, that's 600,000. What about the other 400,000? Because you said it's a $1 million deal, right? All right, we're going to keep stacking the deal. Next thing I'm going to use to stack in almost every deal, I use something called DDP, deferred down payment. Through deferred down payment, it means this is different from seller financing, which is, I'm paying over 5 to 10 years. DDP is like, hey, the down payment, the 400,000, I'll pay you that in 30, 60, or 90 days after I acquire the business. It's like net terms when you have a vendor, right? So now, here, imagine this. I acquired this business on day 1. On day 2, because remember, I already saw all the financials. I know how powerful the business is, how much cash flow. Day 2, I go to maybe a fintech bank. Fintech means financial technology. Those are the banks that give you revenue-based financing loans. It's not based on your credit. It's not based on the business credit. It's just based on the transactions in the business, right? So, okay, day 1, I acquired a business through DDP. Day 2, I go to the fintech bank and say, hey, can I get a revenue-based financing loan? Then they're going to say, hey, okay, you've been doing $200,000 a month through your merchant account for your customers in sales and such. Oh, that's cool. We'll give you $200,000 and take 10, 15, 20% out of every transaction going forward, right? Cool. But who's paying that money back each time until that loan's paid off?
The business.
Not me, the business. There we go. So the business is paying that back. I'm leveraging debt in the business for me to acquire it and get cash flow immediately, right? Let's keep it going. So we said 200,000 from the revenue base. We said 600,000 from seller financing. So we still got another 200,000 left, right? We covered 800,000 so far. Okay, well, let's say I was acquiring like a med spa and there was a couple of doctors. Med spas is where they doing, Botox and all types of stuff, things I don't do myself or know anything about, but I know it's a profitable business. Okay, I'm gonna acquire it from this $1 million case is a med spa, right? So let's say there's some other doctors in it, and I'm like, oh, you've been working here for a while. What would you think if I'm willing to sell you equity in the business? Oh, wow, the other owner wouldn't let me do that. I'd love to do it. I want to stay on board and help build this even more. Okay, cool. So he'll give me 100,000 to get 10% equity, right? What do you think I'm gonna do with that 100,000? During DDP time, I still gotta pay the seller some, so now I go take that and pay the seller. So I just stacked it with that. Maybe there is no employee like that in this business, so I wouldn't use that method to stack the deal, right? That's why I told you I have a list of a couple hundred, and depending on the situation, I use specific ones to stack the deal. And I just keep going. There's another one that I may use called an earnout. An earnout, like if I'm reviewing the financials when I'm looking at the deal before I acquire it, and I say, hey, there's a little something that's off from what you told me. I think I'm gonna recommend an earnout where maybe 20% of the selling price I pay you in 12 months after I make these same numbers that you're promising me. Because it doesn't seem like it really made it, or maybe 2020 is, your off year. So I need to have it proven that that these numbers are accurate for the business. Okay, so 12 months time, we hit this performance target, you get the last 20%. 20% of 1 million is 200,000. I was already at 900,000 because of the person that bought 10%, the revenue-based financing, which was 200,000, and the seller financing was 600,000. So now I just went over the 1 million, and I could put 100 in my pocket for me to get a business that nothing came out of my pocket and is going to produce cash flow for me monthly. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Amazing. So with this process, what time frame is somebody looking at when they do this? Because I heard after I get it the next day, soon as the next day or whatever, next business day, you can go apply for that finance, the fintech, whatever. So what is this whole process about? How long would this take if somebody, just on it?
So finding deals is easy and hard, meaning there's tons of businesses for sale, but finding the right one. Not every single acquisition did I get to zero out of my pocket, right? But in the beginning, most of them were, because that's what I needed to get to break into being able to do this. But then eventually I started seeing some that were, hey, I'll put a little bit of cash on this, but get the rest down to no money out of my pocket, right? So finding the deal can be hard and easy, and that could take a long time for some people. Once you find a good deal and you start the process, it's literally about 4 meetings that I do. But how those 4 meetings could be spaced out over a whole month if they didn't have, the finance guy, my accountant can't meet with you right now, we gotta wait till next week, whatever. But it was literally just 4 meetings that I did. Now I put it under a LOI, a letter of intent, which means, yeah, I'm ready to buy it. I saw the numbers that you gave me so far. I'm ready to buy it and go under full due diligence. That full due diligence is taking as little as 2 weeks, as much as a month and a half for me, right? And then you own the business. So let's say that took me 2.5 months on the long end. Now, if I was to go for the same strategy that I use for a $1 million or a $5 million business is the same strategies that you could use for a $1 billion business. So let's say I was going to do this for a $50 million business. Maybe that'll take me a couple extra months, right? Because there's more due diligence to do. But overall, it could be pretty quickly depending on the business that you're actually trying to acquire. And I actually recommend what they may call boring businesses: laundromats, car washes. It's boring to the average person. Oh, I own a car wash. Okay, whatever. But yeah, it's cash flowing for me. It's producing revenue, and I don't gotta work in it. I don't gotta be there. And it's operating turnkey and being passive for me. So I love those, and those are cheaper for me to get into. I mean, granted, I found a $12 billion commercial laundry business a few months back. So they can be some big ones too, but you don't have to go for those.
So let me ask you this. We talking about million, 50 million, billion. If someone just wanted to get a business that's cash flowing just $20,000 a month, what time frame? Well, it may be the same, but does that make it easy to get? So can we say to get a company, acquire a company that's doing about 20,000 in cash flow, you can get that in maybe 60 to 90 days? Is that about the average?
I don't want to say that as if that is the rule, but yes, if it's so much more smaller, less due diligence to actually go through, sure, it could go a lot quicker. What's going to happen is during the negotiation period, that could go back and forth depending on how much of a hard hat the person is and that type of stuff. But yeah, in general, the less due diligence you got to do, the faster the deal can get done.
And what are some What's one key thing that you look for in a business that's just a must have? Like this, as I'm looking, it must have this in order for me to even give my time to this type of deal.
So I'm gonna tell you two things. The first thing I'm gonna tell you, remember what my why was. Remember what my trigger was that made me leave Microsoft. My time, right? So for me, because I'm no longer an entrepreneur, I'm an investor. I'm not gonna get into a business that cannot be turnkey. I'm not gonna get into a business that I can't hire an operator in to run it without me having to be involved, right? I don't want to be involved in anything. I just sit on boards and I, quarterly review type of thing, and I get paid. So that's a deal breaker for me first and foremost. Second, I want a business that I can. So I purposely have like certain rules of thumbs on the metrics for myself. Meaning, I don't want to get too technical, but there's something called EBITDA, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Here's the funny thing. I'm sorry, a little side note. Here's the funny thing. When I tell y'all these, the audience, these acronyms and such, some of you may say, oh man, it's crazy. That's too hard for me. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur and you don't know what a P&L is, profit and loss statement, you don't know what EBITDA is, you don't know what SDE is, if you don't know what a balance sheet is, then you're not going to survive as an entrepreneur either. It's not unique to me acquiring the business. It's just things that you need to know in being in business at all. So I have a certain level of EBITDA, which is the measuring stick for how valuable a company is, that I want to target. What does that mean? Any acquisition I make, I need to pay, at least be able to pay myself $10,000 a month. That's my number. Somebody else may have a different number. Any acquisition I make, I also want to be able to put at least $10,000 a month back into the business to help it grow. So right there, we're at $120,000 a year for me and $120,000 a year to go back into the business. So that's $240,000. If the EBITDA, which in essence you could say is the profit in the business, right? If the profit was only $300,000, then I'm really close already to eating up that profit to pay myself $10K a month and to pay the business to grow $10K a month. And remember what I said an LBO is, a leveraged buyout, where you're putting debt in the business for you to acquire it. If I put a certain amount of debt in it, but it's only making $300,000 in profit, now I may not have enough money to pay back that debt, plus pay me, plus put back into the company. So I'm giving you that full circle to show you that's important to me, to look at the EBITDA level to make sure that it meets my criteria that I set for myself. And otherwise, I'm not going to look at it in 9 out of 10 cases. 1 out of 10 may be for a different reason. I acquired a company that was not profitable once only because I wanted the customer list. And that way I didn't have to run Facebook ads and stuff like that in another company, because they had the exact customer profile that I wanted. So that was valuable to me, even though it wasn't a cash flowing business.
Have you ever got into a company and once everything in the deal looked good, everything, okay, you're making 10, the EBITDA, everything looks good, but when you got in, there was an unforeseen problem. Have you ever ran into that, and can you tell us a story about that?
First, I'll say this. A lot of people ask me, hey, what's the worst that can happen in this? And, I always tell them, well, I guess a global pandemic could hit and all the businesses shut down and all this type of stuff. But guess what? That's going to happen if you build the business or if you bought the business. It's not because you bought the business that you had this unforeseen problem. So there's never been an unforeseen problem that hit because of the acquisition, right? There's just been the same problems that hit in any business overall, right? I'll say this, if you're merging, because I have like one student, for example, she said she wanted to continue growing her company instead of acquiring businesses. And I said, well, you know that the wealthy grow their businesses by acquiring others and rolling it in, right? So now this is where the success rate goes down a little bit. If you're merging, remember it's called mergers and acquisitions, right? But I only focus on acquisitions. But if you're merging 2 different businesses and 2 different teams in together, then you may need to let go of some people. Then there may be some employee, what's the word? Demotivation, their motivation goes down, right? So that's where you start running into problems. But in terms of a simple acquisition, there's never been an issue that really came up for me Thank you, Melody Woods, putting the EBITDA on there. I love it. There's never been a situation for me where something came up that was due to the acquisition itself.
So once the business is acquired, like typically, now I know you're saying hands off, but is it really just you ain't got to do no? You saying you ain't got to do no marketing, no managing. You ain't got to be a part of team. Do the company even know that you the new owner? Like, what does that process look like? Because I'm thinking like, is it introduced? Hey, y'all, we got a new owner. Is it announced? Because I'm thinking about $1 million company. They may have more than one or two. They may have a team members of 6, 7, 10. So like they need to know who the new owner is, right? How does that process go?
So yeah, during the transition period, that's when they're gonna know the new owner and that type of thing. And I think on all levels, right? A laundromat I own, I've only been to once, and that's when they see the new owner. But other than that, it's operating with the managers that are in place, right? So it is hands off for the most part. But there's a show, I think it's on NBC or something. It's called The Prophet, with a guy named Marcus Lemonis. And he goes in and he's pretty much doing what I do, but the difference is he'll go in and say, okay, it was on the TV and everything, reality. And he was like, let me be in control for 1 week. 1 week is all he asked. And he was able to identify the major problems in the business and put together a quick plan of what we need to get done. But he's not executing the plan. He has the CEO in place, the COO in place, the CFO, the financial officer in place, and they running everything. They're executing it, right? So all I'm doing is quarterly reviews. That's more like quarterly earnings report. Okay, I see we're taking a dip in the business. What's going on? Yeah, well, the CEO is going to tell me, well, this is what's happening and why we're putting in some measures to change things. I might say, all right, well, you know what? Contact my guy, Brother Ben X. He has a marketing company, and he can set up some funnels for you. Okay, there you go. That's all I did. I'm just putting my connections into play. I'm putting some major strategies. Maybe they never heard of ClickFunnels. They never heard of creating a funnel. Well, I know about it. I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to say, hey, we need to have a funnel put in place. Let's make sure we hire somebody as a ClickFunnels developer, get them in and get it done, either full-time or as a contractor, and they execute everything.
Makes sense. Melody Wood says, have you ever had a team quit because of new ownership transition?
So that's where a lot of times teams, well, first of all, there's a couple things I'm gonna tell you, but a lot of times teams are scared. They're like, oh, damn, it's a new owner. We're gonna all lose our jobs, right? I go in and I'm like, no, I want to promote y'all. I want to give you more money because I'm interested in this business because of you. Y'all made this business to where it is right now, along with the previous owner. So I have good experiences with those teams because I'm trying to uplift them. If there's been a key employee that was working in there for the last 20 years or something like that, and they've pretty much run the business when the previous owner wasn't there, I'll uplift that person, promote them to a management position to run it officially. Maybe give them a stock purchase plan so that they can earn some equity over time too, right? So I haven't had that issue at all, but I will say this, I also take precautions to make sure I don't have that issue. When you're in the full due diligence phase with the seller and you're having your financial due diligence and your legal due diligence being done, right before you get to the purchase agreement, which is the final agreement, and then the business becomes yours, at that moment, you're usually then allowed to speak to the employees. So I go in and I'm gonna speak to employees and get them to sign new employment agreements with me as the representative, the owner of the new entity, right? I'm also gonna speak to the vendors, maybe sign new contracts with them, let them know that there's a change in ownership, but we want to continue doing work with them. I'm also going to speak to the landlord if the real estate didn't come with it, and I'm going to say, hey, is there any issues with assignability to assign the lease over to us? Let's get that done too. So I'm taking precautions also before I go fully in, and that's why you got to know. You have to have a plan on how to do this, and that's why it's good to learn from someone like me who's going through it and others who are going through it at the same time in my community, because then you won't make those simple mistakes.
Got it. Okay, man. This is some good game. Now, my question is, do you have a done for you service? Do you have a service where Man, all this sound good, but I ain't got the time. Maybe they got some. Maybe they want to be an investor to get the investment going. Do you have a done for you process where y'all walk us through the process and acquire the business for you for a fee?
Yes. So, first of all, I have the let me teach you how to fish first. That's the BBI you see on my hat right there, the Business Builders Institute, right? In it, teach you how to do this all on your own. And there's 3 levels of in there that give you more and more access to me to help hold your hand a little bit more when you're at the top level, right? Apart from that, because I had so many of my wealthy entrepreneur friends that was like, man, Beez, I love what you're doing. I want to do it too, but I don't want to learn it. Can you just do it for me? And I was always like, yeah, but if I acquire the business $0 out of the pocket, why do I give it to you then? I might as well kept it. I did all the work myself, right? So then I put together that consultation program where they pay me an initiation fee to get started, but they got to have some skin in the game. And that skin is you got to come with 10 to 20% liquid, right? So this is only for high net worth individuals who have some liquidity and they want to get the best investment with the highest return, because buying a business is the highest return you're going to get. So they come 10 to 20% liquid with cash of the selling price. I'll negotiate the other 80 to 90%, zero out of their pocket, and then turn it over to them. And then I get a success fee. So I get a initiation fee up front and then a success fee on the back end after you acquire the business that could be paid through the business over time too.
Now, what somebody could do, right? Because we think about no money, somebody could go probably get a loan, okay? Somebody could possibly go get a loan, use that credit to pay you the 20% so that you can help them go get the other 80%, right?
Exactly. Because here's the thing, the traditional way of buying a business is going to like an SBA loan. When you do an SBA loan, they ask you to come up with like 20% anyway. And then the rest is going to be financed by the bank, and it's going to be put in your name, so it's on your credit in order for you to make that acquisition. And you may say, oh, but I put it in my business credit. Well, don't forget, SBA loans are personally guaranteed, right? But now, instead of coming up with that 20% and then having to have the 80% on your credit and personally guaranteed by you, now you just come up with the 20%, and I do the rest, so that the rest is not money out of your pocket. it's in the business itself. And Frank in the chat just said something that I forgot to say. Anyone that knows real estate, they're probably like, oh man, everything he's saying sounds just like real estate. It's exactly the same. 99% of it is exactly the same. I'll tell y'all the story of how I flipped some businesses, right? If you know wholesaling in real estate, wholesaling is when you get a contract on a piece of property, and then you got like X amount of days to pay it off, and then you go find another buyer that's buying it for a higher price, and then you just collect the money in between, and you never ever had to come out the pocket with no money. That's the same thing that you could do in acquiring businesses too, and much more. But this is definitely the best investment. I can't believe that I didn't know about this sooner, or that our community don't know about it, or when they hear about it, they're still afraid of it. They're like, oh wow, I can't do that. Everybody can. Not everybody will, but everybody can do it. 100%.
So what I'm hearing is I need to go get an SBA loan, put 20% down, which will be $40,000 to get access to the $200,000, so I can give it to you so that we can acquire $1 million business, right?
There you go. There you go. You could do that for sure. There's so many options that exist with it, man. And if you ever hear people talking about, well, here's how you could build business credit in your company that you started, right? Well, think about the fact that you can acquire a company if you do a stock sale, not an asset sale, but if you do a stock sale, you could acquire a company that already got business credit. You acquiring a company that has tax returns, has customers, has revenue immediately, has employees, right? All of that. Like, you can't beat this. Somebody in the chat asked if I teach creative financing for LBO. Yeah, 100%. That's what I teach in the BBI, how you could do it yourself. What Brother Ben X is asking is how I could do it for him too. But yeah, definitely, that's the way to roll.
Okay, last question, because ain't nobody else asked. So if somebody got $20,000 saved up and they don't know what to do with it, and they're trying to acquire a business that does 20,000, 50, whatever a month, what would that process be to work with you and get that done? Or is 20,000 not enough? So maybe this is a better answer. What is that minimum that somebody probably need to be at to get this done, like a done for you service?
I recommend the done for you service for people who are not high net worth individuals, because I don't want nobody to go, refinance their house and take their last dollar to try to get it for me to, to do it for them. And they're waiting for it to happen. And then, they really needed that cash. I'd be disingenuous to our community if I'm saying I'm trying to help our community and I'm gonna tell them to go take a loan and come do it for me. Nah, on the other end, Erica right there said my credit ain't good enough to get an SBA loan. That's why the Institute exists, so you could learn to do this yourself, right? And you could get it all the way to zero out of pocket. If I'm gonna do it for you, you gotta pay me a fee and you gotta have that 20% to acquire the business. If I find a really good opportunity and it's a $1.5 million business, you need 20% of that available, right? I'll do the rest, yeah, but you have to be able to pay me and have that amount. So it's really going to depend on how big of a business that we're able to acquire. But remember, I told you my rule of thumb is I like 300,000 EBITDA or higher. Really, it's 500,000 EBITDA for me is my minimum, but 300 is the minimum because you want enough money to do the LBO, you want enough money for the business to grow, and you want money to pay yourself. And that's where I came up with that number.
Yes, sir, man. So I see people saying, how can they contact you? So what do they have to do to follow you on social media, get into your program, get into your class so they can learn, for those who are not high net worth individuals?
So if you look for me on Instagram first, Business Builder Beez, and that's with a Z, BEEZ. Look for me there, and in my profile there's on the pinned post on the top of my profile, you're gonna see an IG live video that's pinned. Watch that video because it's gonna give you basically more insight into how you could do it yourself, right? Then you could contact me directly through the link in my profile. There's a button that says text. You could text directly to my collab line. Myself and my team will respond on there and just get you rolling. And you're good to go. You could join the BBI, learn to do it yourself. I see somebody in there said you better off getting the business credit SBA. There's too many strings attached. But like I said, you don't have to go through the done for you service. Learn to do it yourself. And now you're getting a zero out of pocket completely. Instead of the 20% to me or the 20% to the SBA. You just choose your poison, I guess.
All right, y'all. So y'all got how to get to the program, how to get to the page. Anything else you want to leave them with as we close out the podcast?
Overall, I just want to tell people, listen, we got to have multiple streams of revenue. And there's three major ways to create wealth in this world. It's real estate. It's the financial markets like stocks and Forex and even crypto nowadays. And then it's owning a business, whether you build it or buy it. So I encourage you all to do at least one, if not all three. And to be honest, there's one other that I kind of added to that list recently, and it's insurance, right? If you know the power of infinite banking with insurance and how you can cycle your money twice, borrow from yourself, and that money keeps growing and the interest keeps growing over time, because our concept of insurance is not accurate. We think insurance, life insurance, we think that's, for when you die. But no, it's for when you're living. That's how the real wealthy use it. So knowing those four things of ways to create wealth, definitely tap into all if you can. I'm happy to teach y'all. I got a lot of free information on my page. The IG is Business Builder Beez with a Z, BEEZ. You check out the free information first. But if you're interested in joining the BBI, I'll definitely carry you as much as I can. The information is there. You just got to execute on it.
All right, y'all. Well, y'all go get all this good game if you can. I'm gonna be contacting you if you don't mind. Just stay on a little longer after we get out this podcast. And man, I appreciate y'all for listening. If you guys want to tap in, follow me on Instagram at Brother Ben X, of course, this Sunday I'm going to be doing the digital real estate, how to build out your 7-figure digital real estate system and blueprint to where how you can build digital assets, companies, and grow your following and impact and income as well. So we're going to close out with another commercial about the digital real estate, and make sure y'all go follow the brother at Business Builder Beez so that you guys can get you a business and get off that 9-to-5 job. Peace. Hey! Listen, I know y'all hearing about the metaverse, you're hearing about the VR systems and all that. Listen, it ain't gotta be so complicated. Making money online and doing digital real estate is not so complicated. You don't have to be popular. You don't have to be tech savvy. I'm gonna show you how I was able to take a company to 7 figures in less than a year with my 7-figure digital real estate blueprint, and you can do the same. Again, you don't have to be popular. You don't have to be tech savvy. You just need to know the information, because if I know the information, I can hire somebody who can do the groundwork, but many of us just don't have the blueprint or the system. If you think it's not for you, or if you kind of on the fence, I'm doing a free webinar coming up. Here's the link below. I'm doing a free webinar to give you guys some secrets on how I built it. By the end of that webinar, you're going to see how you can do it, and your friends can do it, and your family can do it. So make sure you invite them as well. See you guys on the other side. Now, that link is www.drecourses.com. www.drecourses.com.